What's up? Welcome back. It's time for Talking Stanleys. That's just a little reference to the fact that you realize that the only reason why we talk Oscars is because somebody said, hmm, that statue looks like my husband Oscar. If her husband's name had been something other than Oscar, it's entirely possible that we could be talking Harveys, we could be talking Miltons. It just so happens that we talk Oscars. Well, this is the best actor race, so I thought that would be a fun point to just laugh about that. I wasted your time. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com. Click subscribe anyway, just because you enjoyed that little tidbit, that little. You probably knew it. If you're here and you like the Oscars, you probably knew that, but I don't think you got the joke. It was a bad joke. I apologize. Let's jump into actor race. Um, all right, so I take a look at Gold Derby and see where they're at, and I the me and Gold Derby, we are. Some people are willing to jump off ledges, and some people are just willing to hope in a prayer, wing in a prayer, and they're like, "Looks good on paper." Listen, a lot of things look good on paper, and we've been there before, and you have to sort of, it's a lot of reading tea leaves while also looking at what's good on paper, while also like putting your ear to the earth and just listening for something. And it's everything. You have to do everything. You have to, the littlest things, the littlest breeze in the wind, the little whispers out there, and just you have to listen to those things. So, um, yeah, I disagree with their top five. I only have two of them. I only have two. Mostly because I think this early on, I don't think we're going to be a set five. This was a race last year where, if we remember, Hugh Jackman was the front runner for a while. I mean, he was behind Brendan Fraser, but this is Brendan Fraser's pretty much from the beginning. But Hugh Jackman was like right there behind him because Banshees hadn't really picked up its steam. It was sort of like we knew it was coming, but we hadn't really talked about it in the proper ways. Uh, Definitely nobody knew, who or what Paul Mescal was or what After Sun was. That didn't come along until later. We're talking about like July. Obviously, like later on, we knew what After Sun was, but in July, nobody. It was like I don't know, I don't know what that is. So, uh, yeah, the race kind of got reshaped. People knew about Austin Butler, but there was sort of that like, will he? Won't he? Is he too new? Is he too young? What's up with Baz Luhrmann? Did Baz Luhrmann's things get nominated? Is Elvis Academy Award worthy, or is it a crowd pleaser? We were still mulling over whether or not Tom Cruise could get into the race. A lot of things were happening last year. So at this point, of course, Leonardo DiCaprio is winning the race. I don't think he's going to win this award. I've heard it is a fantastic performance from him. However, how many times have we heard that about a Leonardo DiCaprio performance? He literally had to revenant his way into an Oscar. He had to basically die for a film. He he basically had to throw his entire, to the point where the Academy was like, "Please stop. We'll give you an Oscar now. Please. We're so sorry. You shouldn't have to put yourself through that." I don't even think The Revenant is his best performance. I just think The Revenant is his, clearly his most committed, daring performance. It's what he subjected himself to, for that Oscar win, is what got him the Oscar. I think there are much more nuanced performances of his that are interesting, and this might be one of them. If he hadn't won already, I would think definitely. I mean, if we were still at a point where DiCaprio hadn't won an Oscar, I'd be like, he's definitely winning for this. He has an Oscar now, so the argument becomes, what now? Well, he's on top because we've seen his film. It opened at Cannes, and um, that's why he's leading. That, and he's DiCaprio. So he's in a strong film, and he's a multi-time Academy Award nominee. He's a past winner. It just makes sense. So I agree with this, and I do actually have him in my top 5 because I think regardless of whether or not he wins, I think he gets the nomination. I don't think this is not Don't Look Up. This is not that for him. This is you're good to go. Green light. You've been given the green light. Please move on to the next level. The other person from Gold Derby's top 5 that I also have is Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. This is a film that they held a private screening for at one of the festivals last year for people in the know, people with the ability to buy films. And there was a bidding war, and this film sold for like $25 million. And they held it off for an entire year. It's Fox Searchlight is behind this. Alexander Payne they did Sideways together, which did not work out for Paul Giamatti. I think this time it will work out for Paul Giamatti. Everything about how this film has come to be screams, we know this film is great, and we can't wait to show it to you. I think, and plus, it's not going to be. I think it's going to be a little bit lighter. Alexander Payne's films tend to have a little bit of levity in them, which will be nice in this category. Because I think we'll get a lot of really serious performances. We love the serious performances. And to have that little bit of levity, kind of like we did with Colin Farrell. His film Banshees was a little bit of levity. It was still really dark, but it had just enough in there. But it felt different. So I think Paul gets in. The other 3 I don't have in. I don't have Bradley Cooper. I need people to tell me Maestro is good. I'm not of the mindset that somebody is a front runner simply because they wear a lot of makeup. If you go listen to the other videos, I'll let you go listen to other people's YouTube channels, and they'll be like, he's caked in makeup. This feels Oscar baity. Many people have been caked in makeup before and have not gotten Oscar nominations. This is not best performance while wearing a shit ton of makeup. This is best actor. And the film has to be good. And the fact that Netflix gave Bradley Cooper money to go reshoot worries me. So I'm at a point where I need somebody to tell me Maestro is fantastic before, that all of the problems of Maestro were fixed in the reshoots, and that you can't even tell. You can never tell that this film used to not be great. And now it's fantastic, and it's Bradley Cooper's best performance, and blah, 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 all that. Because otherwise, if he's in a mediocre film, it doesn't matter how much makeup he's wearing, he's not getting a Best Actor nomination for a mediocre film. This category is pretty stacked with some solid performances, and they'd all kind of have to end up falling away like last year, which is kind of like last year we saw a lot of things falling away. I don't think that's going to happen 2 years in a row. I don't think the Best Actor race is going to be very weak 2 years in a row. But some films and some performances are going to fall away. Another one that I'm not sold on is Coleman Domingo for Rustin. He's not even as big of a name as the others. And I think Rustin, while it's based on a true story, Netflix pushed it back a year. This film also does not have great buzz. It also has kind of a similar sort of like, it's not a great film like Maestro. Is the early word on Rustin. Coleman Domingo's great in it, apparently. How great can he be to carry a film that he might be the only nomination for it? Is it going to be Netflix's priority to push a film in which they can only get a Best Actor nomination? I don't know. But I'm not gonna leap off for Coleman here because, interesting thing, he's also in The Color Purple. And while he could get 2 nominations, I actually think there's a better shot he gets nominated for The Color Purple. So I have him elsewhere. So if you're a Coleman Domingo fan and you think I've slighted him, I can, spoiler alert, tell you when we get to Best Supporting Actor, you'll be pleasantly surprised. And the 5th spot, the 5th person that I just don't have I don't have in is it's just it's Cillian Murphy, and I'm willing I'd be willing to go there if it wasn't for the fact that Nolan has only ever gotten one acting nomination, and it was a posthumous one for Heath Ledger, which he did go on to win. That's it. Nolan doesn't pick up acting nominations, so this would be kind of a breakthrough. It's sort of like Jason Schwartzman is eligible for you to pick. It would be like arguing Jason Schwartzman at this point for Asteroid City. Wes Anderson has never gotten an acting nomination for a single actor from any of his films. So why Jason Schwartzman? Why right now? And why are there so many people from Oppenheimer that are in awards consideration? Why do we think this is the film that's going to do it for Nolan? That suddenly is going to change the way, that suddenly he's going to become an actor's director. He is a visual director with a great visual style who understands he understands pacing, he understands a lot of things, and that's why his films are tremendous. Can he get an Oscar-level performance out of Cillian Murphy? Probably. But will people notice that it's an Oscar-level performance? Because they haven't seemed to notice other Oscar-level performances in other films. I don't know. I don't feel as solid about Cillian Murphy right now. I feel like Cillian Murphy's going to get up there only because Oppenheimer opens, and if it gets good reviews, people start talking about Cillian Murphy. It's only July, so he'll get in the race. Can he sustain? I don't know. I really question that. So, you're probably asking yourself, who do I have in this race? Well, I also like odds. You know, I like the idea of people who are not currently projected to do well. And I like the fact that they might swing back up. So there's been actually a decent amount of buzz. It's a small film, but arguably, so we're After Sun and Living last year. So, but David Strathairn for A Little Prayer. There's been quite a lot of buzz around him. Seems like the kind of film that could get in. I think this is Sony Pictures Classics, and somebody has pointed out in another video that they've always had a nominee in this race. Some like statistically, like 9 out of the last 10 years, there's been a Sony Picture Classics actor in this race. So if that's true, and this is their pick, then maybe they'll run with it. He's a previous nominee. Yeah, I think he's possible, and his odds are great. So if I leave him in there for a little while and I swing back around and I finally cave months later and put in somebody when I finally feel like somebody's definitely in, and maybe David isn't, I'll be fine with that. Because there's no real upside to some of the people right now who have the kind of odds. They have frontrunner odds. Like DiCaprio's 4-1 odds. Like this is really, it really doesn't. It's not going to do anything for me. It's just I agree with it. Like I don't need to move DiCaprio. I feel like he's going to be in there. So, and I don't know how his odds would get any worse. I don't know where it's going to go from there. So I do have David Strathairn. I have Ed Harris for A Long Day's Journey Into Night. I think the fact that this is a movie adaptation of a stage production that got really good reviews. I think people are going to come and watch. The buzz is more on Jessica Lange's side, but a lot of times there's that come along nomination, and I think people may come for Jessica Lange, stay for Ed Harris, and Ed Harris may find his way into the conversation. So I have Ed Harris, and for the fifth spot, I actually just swapped this right before I did the video, and it's because I didn't realize the film didn't have distribution, and then I saw who got it, and that they picked it up and they announced it for a festival run. It's premiering at Venice, but Neon picked up Ferrari, which intrigues me. It's Michael Mann, and I didn't realize Ferrari didn't have a distributor, and that Michael Mann developed that independently, which really makes me think this might be a very different film than what I thought it was going to be. I was thinking this was more of a big budget thing, like Ford versus Ferrari, and I don't think that's maybe what this is. So I'm really interested to see what kind of piece this is. And Driver's been chasing Oscars for a while now, and there's been several performances of his that were great, but he just didn't get nominated. So I think Driver could end up being a surprise later in the race once we see Ferrari. I could be wrong, but it intrigues me. The sixth place spot, the one who's just bubbling out in Gold Derby right now, is Barry Keoghan for Saltburn. I'm not going there, and it's only because I'm not taking that leap of faith. He's young. Young actors traditionally are not nominated for Best Actor. I didn't really go young with my nominees. I kind of went old if you look at my nominees. I mean, even somebody like Adam Driver he's older than Barry. I mean, it's not a category that usually is populated with young talent. Young actors tend to have a little bit of a problem getting in. So I don't have 2 nominations back to back in a row. This is going to have to be a fantastic film. And I just don't know if this is Promising Young Woman. I don't know if this is going to be the same level, the same quality. I think to just assume when we have a director that has so few credits and so few Oscar nominations that suddenly Oscar's just going to love everything they do and love all the performers that are their leads. That's the mistake we made last year with The Son. We leapt to that conclusion was, oh, well, The Father did really well, so The Son will do really well. They're doing the same thing this year with this. They're doing the same fucking thing. Everybody's like, oh, well, Promising Young Woman was great, so Saltburn will be great. That's not how this works. That is not how this works. Especially with directors who don't have the depth of work for you to be able to make that leap. Even Nolan with Tenet. Everybody was like, oh my god, Tenet it's gonna be everywhere. It's gonna be all over the place. And we're gonna it's gonna be great. And then Tenet didn't work out. So even people who have bodies of work, it doesn't always pan out for them. So stop doing that. Stop just assuming, especially when somebody has very little to go off of, that, oh, well, of course, yes, it must be. No, it doesn't mean anything. So yeah, I think he's a little too young to get his, like, a consecutive Oscar nomination. He'd have to be amazing. I am looking at Teo Yu for Past Lives. However, I don't think Past Lives is a frontrunner. I think it feels like it's an elevated indie. It's a film that everybody saw and everybody loved, and people haven't seen anything else that blew them away yet. A lot of the other films that were great, that blew people away, were seen at Cannes. And those films have not been released to everybody else yet. So people haven't had a lot of the critics who are talking about Past Lives have not had a chance to be blown away by Anatomy of a Fall, Zone of Interest, May, December, or Killers of the Flower Moon, the big 4 that came out of Cannes. So all they have is Past Lives to talk about. When the dust settles, if we're in December and Past Lives is still chugging along like Everything Everywhere All at Once, sure, I'll jump in on Teo Yu, but nobody knows who he is. And Greta Lee is basically the star. There's been a lot of debate about whether or not Teo is Best Actor, or whether or not Greta is lead and both of the guys are supporting. Obviously, they would just split it anyway because they have a better shot of getting nominations if they split the actors. So they would just push Teo because he has, I guess, a bigger role than John Magaro. So I don't have that. The one that I will say I'm really interested in is Joaquin Phoenix for Napoleon. It is reteaming him with Ridley Scott for Gladiator, and a lot of talk I've given about Ridley Scott. I don't know about Napoleon as a Best Picture contender. I don't know about Ridley Scott as a director contender. I didn't even give her the time of day in supporting an actress, Vanessa Kirby, And Best Actress, I don't know. You're Napoleon adjacent. Is what you're not Napoleon. I am intrigued by Joaquin Phoenix and Napoleon, and here's why: because Joaquin Phoenix has an assload of nominations and multiple wins. So he's an Oscar darling, and he's playing a real life biopic hero. And Napoleon to me feels like the kind of film that may not do well at the Oscars, but I would not be surprised at all if it got a Joaquin Phoenix nomination and a couple, maybe like production design, costume design, visual effects, maybe score. I don't know. It could get like 3 or 4 nominations, but the big one could be Joaquin Phoenix, and maybe that's where it stops. He also has Beau is Afraid this year, which is on Gold Derby, and if you predict it, you're fucking insane. And the thing is that people saw Beau is Afraid, and they saw how great he was in it. He's not being nominated for Beau is Afraid. It's not happening. I'm sorry, Ari Aster fans. It's not happening this year. Maybe your guy will make a film one year that will get him recognized. It's not this film. But having a great performance, having a second great performance, I think that's part of the reason why Colin Farrell had so much love last year. He was in so many films where he was fantastic. He had After Yang, he had The Batman, and he had the Cave movie. I didn't really care for that one, but the other two were great. He was great in the other two. So, like, yeah. So he had he that was like his 4th performance of the year, and so yeah, Joaquin Phoenix. The fact that he has another great performance under his belt, sure. I'm really interested in Napoleon. There's some other like longer shots that I've heard things about. There's some names that are on this list that I've heard things about. I think Anthony Hopkins is really interesting for Freud's Last Session, or whatever that film is called. He's playing Sigmund Freud. I mean, he's Anthony Hopkins playing Sigmund Freud. I mean, I can't totally ignore the possibility of that. I think the fact that he did just win for The Father, I think there's less of a rush to give him yet another Oscar nomination. Certainly he wouldn't win. He couldn't get momentum out of Armageddon Time. So the film has to be good, because he can't. That's what I'm talking about when I say, like, you have to be in a good film. Your film has to be getting good reviews. You can't just be in a film. Anthony Hopkins, he was good in Armageddon Time. He couldn't get away from the film. He couldn't get into the race out of Armageddon Time, and he's Anthony Hopkins. So why would I say that Bradley Cooper and Coleman Domingo could get into races if their films are received like Armageddon Time was? You know, it's unlikely. Andrew Scott is in a film called Strangers. I think that could be interesting. That could come along and be a surprise. I think all these people that are in these films that are like the nostalgia films, I don't think any of them are happening. I think the fact that Jesse Garcia is on here for Flamin' Hot is hilarious. It really, like, if I could ask Gold Derby editors one question, I would be like, what the fuck? That would be my question. It would be, what the fuck? Why is Flamin' Hot here? Why on earth do you think? What is it about Flamin' Hot that makes you think it needs to be tracked at all? But yet, you're not tracking Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, which is a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. And they're not even remotely interested in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the Hunger Games prequel. Like, there are certain other, like, big films that they're not even, like, they're just like... But Timothée Chalamet might get it for Wonka. Might he? Like, what is it about Wonka that causes you to go, Timothée Chalamet for Best Actor, but Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, no, it's, we're highbrow over here at the Academy Awards. Anyway, either just put more people on the list or stop being stupid. Just like make it make sense. Chalamet's on here twice, by the way. He's on here for both Wonka and for Dune, two things he won't be nominated for. John David Washington's on here for two films. He's not going to get nominated this year. He's chasing a nomination himself. I think they're going to move The Piano Lesson. I really do. I just finished shooting. It has to enter post-production. So, I mean, this is like wishful thinking. This is like, this is a Netflix film that I don't want them to rush it and throw it in at the tail end like they did with Pale Blue Eye, which got nothing anywhere. I don't think Pale Blue Eye got nominated anything anywhere. Maybe like one of the guilds, maybe like costume design or something, gave it the guild for them. I don't know, but it was given an Oscar qualifying run, and then they dropped it on Netflix in January. But by that point, everybody had sort of made up their minds about the Oscar race, and Pale Blue Eye wasn't good enough to change any of that. And I would be afraid of Piano Lesson taking that slot of being the wait, guys, wait up, it's me too. Those films don't usually work out. It hasn't worked out as Cyrano. You know, a lot of people thought Peter Dinklage was going to get a nomination for that. The release pattern for that was so stupid that they botched it and couldn't get Peter Dinklage a nomination. And then another film that they threw in also happened to star John David Washington was Malcolm and Mary. They threw that in at the last second into the race. It came out like right before voting. Those films don't do well, and they're gonna have to rush post-production. It's a first-time director. It's Denzel's other kid. It's Malcolm Washington. So directing John David Washington, produced by Denzel Washington. It's a Washington thing. It's an August Wilson play. I have great faith in it. I just don't have faith it's coming out this year. So, yeah. I have all the faith in the world that next year, I'm going to say it right now, for 2024's list of watch out for Piano Lesson, but I don't have any faith for it right now in this year. I did have Paul Dano. I think I mentioned that for Dumb Money. I'm looking at Dumb Money and I'm wondering, is it like The Big Short? Is it Don't Look Up? Could it be? It's being released actually within the season, which unlike something like Air has a long way to go, which is why I don't think Air and Blackberry and Flamin' Hot and Beanie Mania, Beanie Bubble, I don't know what that film was called, Tetris, like none of those films are getting nominations. I know we have so many of those. So the GameStop scandal one is actually being released within Oscar season. So maybe. I think we have to figure out what the fuck to do with Michael Fassbender real fast. Depends on which film you think he's being considered for, because he can't be nominated for both, and he's clearly the lead in both. So what are we doing? What are we doing here? He can't be a frontrunner for both The Killer and Next Goal Wins. So that's going to come down to which film has the better shot. Is it David Fincher's The Killer, or is it Taika Waititi's Next Goal Wins? I don't know what they're doing with The Killer. I don't know what festival it's premiering at. I do know that Next Goal Wins is hitting a festival, and then it's being given a Thanksgiving release. So that is, to me, a vote of confidence in that film. I don't know that Netflix is giving The Killer that level of confidence. So it's possible that even though right now he's a little bit higher for The Killer because people love David Fincher, he may end up having a much better shot at Next Goal Wins. But until he figures out which film he wants to be pushed for, he will not be in a front runner, because he's going to end up pulling nominations for both. So we got to figure out which one. Yeah, it's a very odd, interesting year. Sure, there are some other people down in the race, just like there were for Best Actress. I was like, why aren't we talking about Julia Roberts and Nicole Kidman? They're listed. What's up with that? And like, why? I haven't heard anybody talk about their films. I'm so intrigued. Michelle Williams was in a film nobody's talking about. So I see that. I see Peter Dinklage is in a film called like She Came to Me. There was somebody who I think is chasing an Oscar. I think he's inevitably going to get an Oscar nomination. I think he was probably really close for Cyrano. It's just the studio botched that hard botch on Cyrano. But I don't know about what is She Came to Me about. What is it gonna get? Where is it going? Why doesn't anybody care about it? So there's certain actors, certain performances, certain roles. I always laugh. I laugh that now we're in a point where Zac Efron gets tracked for nominations. I love it. It's great. We've got Dev Patel for something called The Monkey Man. I'm intrigued by Adam Sandler because last year he was in the race for the same film. And I think for Spaceman. And I think that's another actor who there's a lot of goodwill. It's been building up for him. He had some good performances way back there. I mean, some people have been rooting for him since Punch Drunk Love. So, yeah, a lot of people think he was. It's crazy to think that so many people think he was actually snubbed for Uncut Gems. I didn't think we'd get to a point where Adam Sandler was snubbed for an Academy Award, but he was. And Hustle, he got a SAG nomination last year, so I don't know why Spaceman is trending at 100-1. I'm hoping it's because secretly the people at Gold Derby watched it and they're like, no, this is not going to happen. But if it's anything else, I would say I wouldn't count Adam Sandler out. I didn't think he'd get nominated for Hustle, and then he got a SAG nomination, and suddenly everybody was like, maybe Adam Sandler will get an Oscar nomination. So, yeah, I would say there's a lot of people in here don't count out. There are some people who I've counted out, wrapped them up, put them in a little ball, and threw them in the trash can. I don't think there's no shot for some of these people. Some of the lesser known people, it's a struggle. Your film has to be really good. You have to be really good in it, and the studio has to be willing to push you. So the fact that I'll throw out an example, Callum Turner for The Boys in the Boat. People don't know who Callum Turner is. I mean, a lot of like film buffs do, because it's not like he's not a breakthrough performer. They didn't pick him up off the street, but in general, he's not a huge star. So it's hard to market Callum Turner, and it seems nobody seems to really be tracking or interested in George Clooney's The Boys in the Boat. So I don't know where to go with that. So yeah, there's a lot of potential. There's actually a lot of potential. Just sounds like a lot of potential from the people who are 1-100s. I'm intrigued, and I hope to see some of those films and figure out for myself why are these people 1-100? Is it simply because their campaigns haven't started yet? Because they're premiering at a film festival later in the year, and we haven't gotten to that film yet. Like, why haven't some of these films popped? Because they definitely have some of the actors worth popping. So, anyway, that's a cursory look at the Best Actor race. Like I said, my top 5, just to recap, which is different than the Gold Derby's top 5, currently is Leonardo DiCaprio, Paul Giamatti, Ed Harris, David Strathairn, and Adam Driver. If I had to say the one that I've got my eye on the most right now is actually Joaquin Phoenix for Napoleon, because I think he sustains the film. I think if that film ends up being good, Joaquin is like a DiCaprio. He's got several nominations. They obviously like him. He always goes all in. It's probably an intense, insane performance. And he also has the benefit of already having an intense, insane performance this year. However, Ridley Scott's last two films went absolutely nowhere. To the point where Lady Gaga had actually hit every single precursor. Statistically speaking, Lady Gaga was a lock for House of Gucci because she had done everything she needed to do to get that nomination, and the Oscar voters still said no. So, it's tough. I don't know where they're at with Ridley Scott. So I need Napoleon to be great because it's definitely going to be Apple's number 2 behind Killers of the Flower Moon. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Next time we're going to do supporting actress. So get ready to hear all about how many ladies from The Color Purple I think will populate that category. How many people the world thinks from The Color Purple will populate that category. All 5 of them. Spoiler alert, I think the entire category is going Color Purple. The whole thing. Just throw everybody else out. It's a solid Color Purple. Everybody. Anyway, subscribe and I'll see you guys on the other side.